Welcome everyone to Vested Interest. This is Shane, and this is our weekly portfolio update. A lot to cover in the portfolio this week. We are going to talk about the $2,126 we added in new capital in all the positions that we allocated those funds across, as well as all the other activity across the portfolio. But before we do that, I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone who's taken the time to watch, comment, and like the videos, and a special thank you to those who subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate it. The channel continues to grow because of people like you. Now, for those of you who may be stopping by for the first time, on this channel, we focus on dividend growth investing. It's not rocket science, in my opinion. The best way to do anything, keep it as simple as possible. So it really boils down to consistently investing, buying dividend growth stocks in growing companies with positive cash flow that covers the dividend and companies with a high return on their invested capital. I utilize both a dollar cost average approach, consistently investing in the stocks within the portfolio on a weekly basis. I also do larger purchases whenever I get a bonus or if I do a side job or run into some extra funds. I cover all my investments. That's what this weekly portfolio update video is. Every Sunday morning, you'll find another portfolio update. Usually these come out a little earlier than this one will, but my bank was doing some updates, so I was not able to get in and get the final numbers I needed. So this will come out a little later on Sunday than what is typical. But again, I do these every week. It is free to see what I'm doing in my portfolio. We all have enough to pay for. But if you would like to help me out, take a moment to hit that thumbs up button down below if you find any value in the content. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Join us on this journey to financial freedom. Join the vested interest community. Click that notification bell so you're notified whenever we put out any new content. I do these portfolio videos, like I said, every Sunday. You'll get to see exactly what's going on in my portfolio, any buys, any sales, reallocations of funds, any options I'm in, all the dividends I receive along the way. I will show you that every week out in the open. I think it's important for investors who are maybe new investors as they see ups and downs in the market, people thinking about investing, and some of you who have been out there investing for a while and maybe just not seeing the returns that you'd like to. I think it's important for all of us to see real portfolios built out over time. I am not a financial guru. I did not go to college for this. I do not have a background in finance. My parents are not wealthy and did not turn over any or much knowledge in the lines of finances other than spend everything you have and go into debt for the most of your life, which I think most people's parents passed on to them as well. So I'm going to cover my portfolio out in the open. So again, hopefully it shows you there are ups and downs in the market. That is normal. There are ups and downs in individual positions that you are holding. That is normal. And don't be afraid of the red days. If you've done your research and you're buying good companies, the downturns should be buying opportunities. Now, with that said, let's get into the first portfolio activity. We are going to cover the options that we ran this week. Pretty good week in options, I will say. We had several. Now, they are going to have a little bit of a difference here. We're going to cover them in two tranches, even though we went in and bought them all on September 9th last Monday, or sold them all on last Monday. So they are all covered calls. That means we own 100 shares of each one of these positions. That's what the -1 means. One contract equals 100 shares. So we did a sold to open covered call for AWK. This is American Waterworks with a end date of September 20th. So that's actually this coming Friday. Last Friday would have been the 13th. So that's these ones down here. So AWK does not let us do weekly options. It's once a month or so is about what AWK. So we did one for expiration of September 20th, again, next Friday. 150 strike price. It's going to be close on this one with a $55 per share, 50 cents and 5 cents, 55 cents really comes out of it. So we keep $54.45 in options premium. And same thing with CVS. We set this one, ticker CVS, out of the healthcare sector. AWK is a utility company out of the utility sector, if I didn't mention that. Same end date, September 20th. That's next Friday. My birthday is actually the 21st, so Saturday is my birthday. With a 59 strike price, so it's got to be $59 or above. Then it would be called away. If it's under 59, we keep this and we keep the premium. $36 or 36 cents per share. After fees amounts to $35.45. Now the next tranche, all of them again bought on September 9th. One contract of BABA Now this one is already expired. This one expired on September 13th. It was an $85 strike price. We received 32 cents per share after fees, $31.45. So we kept that options premium. Now, the Starbucks call, and I should have plugged this in here. This one sold to open, one contract, $94 strike price. Now Starbucks actually jumped up to around 98, 99. I think it ended the week at $98. So this one was actually called away. We received $34 or 34 cents per share minus fees, $33.45. Total options for the week, $154.80. We'll have to wait and see how Friday shakes out. Baba, this call's already over. So is the Starbucks call. This call's already over. Now, as I said, Starbucks was assigned. So that means it was over $94. We do not get the delta between that 94 to the 98 it closed at. We only received the 94 cents per share, like I said, so minus the fees. So for this particular company here, or this particular play here, we are going to take these funds and we are going to either reallocate it across. I'm not buying back into Starbucks, and I'm not going to run the wheel on this one. I think that Starbucks, I was buying this back in the 70s, if you recall. I think it was a good buy under 80, under $78 per share. That's really where I wanted it. My cost per share basis was around 76, 75, right in there. I have 111 or had 111 shares. Currently, I have a little over 11 shares in the portfolio because these 100 shares were called away. Now, the reason I am not going to run the wheel on this one is the fundamentals of Starbucks have not changed. The only thing that's changed is they have a new CEO. So I understand everyone is real excited. This CEO is coming over from Chipotle. Had some good luck over there at Chipotle, even though lately Chipotle has been kind of having some issues. So I'm wondering how much of that issue has to do with him towards the tail end, or maybe it's part of him leaving, right? But he just left recently. He just started this week with Starbucks. So I think that was part of the run-up. Initially, the run-up was the announcement of them hiring him. The second run-up was he started. He hasn't done anything yet. Nothing's changed with the company. They're still having the same issues they were having before. Long lines, long waits, people complaining about service. You've got some other companies that are coming, Dutch Bros and other ones. They're having trouble expanding into China the way they thought. So anyways, nothing has changed with the company, but it has significantly rebounded. I am up on this one from when I started buying it, over 20%. So I am happy taking that 20% because this and the options premium I've received. If you've been watching, I've been running options on Starbucks with the intent that if it was called away, I may just let it go because I'll book that 20% and then I'll reallocate the funds somewhere else. So I'm going to do one of two things. I'm either going to reallocate the funds across the portfolio into different positions, sell the other 11 shares that I have, get out of Starbucks completely. Then if it was to drop back below 80 at some time, I would look to jump back in. But right now, in the high 90s, mid to high 90s, I believe it is overvalued, just like I thought it was overvalued and wasn't buying it until it dropped under 80, $78 really is where I wanted it, or lower is where I put my price on it. So in the high 90s, it's a little high for my taste. I'm not going to be adding to this in the mid to high 90s. So I'm fine taking my 20% profit and reallocating these funds, or I may look to run covered calls on SCHD with these funds and then just run covered calls, cash secured puts, covered calls, run that wheel with these funds. And I may do that anyway because I may do that and reallocate some of the funds because at $94, I think SCHD is right in $82 range right now. So I'd be able to run that covered call on SCHD as well as reallocate some funds. I haven't made up my mind yet, but I'm looking at what I'm going to do with that today to see what I want to do with these funds, but I probably will not run the wheel on Starbucks. I'll probably let that get called away, sell the other shares at the $98, $97, whatever it is now, $99, reallocate those funds elsewhere, and then just run the wheel on SCHD or another position. I'm looking for another undervalued position right now. ATKR, Atcore, one of the positions I looked at here over the last couple of weeks, looks interesting right now because it's right near its 52-week low. The only problem with Atcore, similar to AWK, it doesn't let you do weekly options. It lets you do like once a week, once every couple weeks, something along those lines. All right, enough on the options. Dividends. We received a lot of dividends. We'll have several to go through here. First up on the list, on September 10th, we received dividends from Johnson & Johnson, ticker J&J, out of the healthcare sector. We received $147.86. I do have the drip set, so we reinvested these funds as soon as they get paid out. When we don't reinvest it, the brokerage account automatically reinvests it. That's what the DRIP stands for, Dividend Reinvestment Plan. You click that DRIP, Dividend Reinvestment Plan button in your brokerage, and they automatically reinvest the dividends for you. In this instance, $147.86 paid out by Johnson & Johnson goes back in and picks up 0.8838 more shares of Johnson & Johnson. Those new 0.88 shares, not quite a whole share of Johnson & Johnson, adds an additional $4.38 in passive income over the next calendar year. Excuse me. And if you've ever heard anyone talk about the dividend snowball effect, that is what it is. You go in, you buy positions, right? In this case, Johnson & Johnson. So you buy shares of Johnson & Johnson, ticker J&J here. Johnson & Johnson pays out dividends. You have the drip set. Those dividends, they pay out dividends, $147. Those dividends go back in and buy more shares. Those shares add additional passive income. That is the dividend snowball in effect. So even if I don't add any new capital to Johnson & Johnson, this will continue to compound over time as long as I have the drip set. As soon as I turn that drip off, these dividends will just go into a cash pile, and then I'll have to reallocate them myself or use them for bills or whatever I'm going to use them for. But as the drip is set, or as long as the drip is set, this dividend snowball will increase and increase and increase. And it'll increase faster if I continue to add capital to Johnson & Johnson as well. So next up, as I said, a lot of dividends to go through this week. Came in on September 11th, and where were you on September 11th back in 2001? If you remember, that's when the Twin Towers fell. Myself, I was in the Air Force, still going through tech school. Actually, there was a group of us locked in a little, I think it was like an 8 by 12 room. We were doing learning how to do or transmit encrypted data, encrypted communications. Satellite and broadband communications was what I was in the military for. So we were going through in our little blocked off room there, super secure location that we were at, learning to transmit encrypted data, encrypted information, encrypted communications. So we did not know the Twin Towers had even been hit until 45 minutes. They basically locked the base down, locked us in that little room. We sat there for quite a while. I think we finally got out. They let us out after about 30, 45 minutes there. And I think we finally got back to our dorms just as the plane hit. I think the Pentagon one had already hit. The second plane had already hit the other tower. So we were watching the replay on that. And then the news came out that the last plane, I believe it was the last plane, either the last plane or the second to last plane. I can't remember if it was the Pentagon was the last one or the one in the field was the last one, but it was the one in the field that they were announcing. I think that was the last one. The Pentagon hit first before that, and then the last one was I think it was the second plane hit, the tower, then the Pentagon, then the field, if I remember correctly, but it's been a while. Let me know where you were at on September 11th. But better September 11th this year, I received $44.82 from Haverty Furniture's ticker HVT out of the consumer discretionary sector. And again, same thing, we have the drip set. And unfortunately for my portfolio, my brokerage does not allow individual positions to have drip set. You either have the drip set for all positions or you have the drip off for all positions. I wish they'd let you go in and pick individual positions to set or uncheck the drip button, but they don't. So I have the drip set here still. I would have it on this one anyway, but there's a couple I'd probably take it off. $44.82 paid out, went right back in and bought 1.79531 more shares of Haverty Furniture's companies. The new shares added $2.29 in additional passive income. And again, that's that dividend snowball effect. Next up, we received dividends on Friday, September 13th, $217 total in dividends. Across two companies, we received dividends from Ticker O Realty Income, the monthly paying REIT here out of the real estate sector, paid us $67.72, went right back in and picked up 1.08234 more shares of Realty Income. And last but certainly not least, Vale, ticker VALE. This is a mining company out of the materials sector, also a Brazilian company, so there's some tax implications around this. You should understand, if you have foreign companies, does your brokerage account take out the taxes, or are you going to be responsible for them at the end of the year? You need to know that. Vale paid us $132.45. Went right back in and picked up 12.5072 more shares, adding $13.59 with these new shares here over the next calendar year. Now, this is another one I wanted to talk through. We did a swap. Well, we did a buy and swap on the same day. So we bought more shares of Google, four more shares, ticker GOOG, $154.13 early in the day. Now, I got to talking to a friend of mine that he also does some investing. He's an older gentleman, has been investing for a long time. I happened to mention that I had done my weekly purchase, and we were talking about what I purchased. And he actually owns Google. He owns GOOGL, if you can see here. And he got to talking to me about the reason why he picked GOOGL versus GOOG. Now, I do understand the difference between the two. GOOGL gives you some voting rights. Now, the reason I didn't care about that previously was because there's enough shares that the original founders own that the shares out there with GOOGL that give you voting rights, even if someone was to buy all the shares, the original founders still have enough shares between that group. They haven't sold enough off yet that they would still be able to make the decisions regardless of how the people vote, right? So that's why it didn't matter to me. But what he brought up, that I didn't really like, that I didn't really think about before, was for GOOG, these are the shares that employees are assigned. So if you're a high-level executive, VP, CEO, something like that, and you get stock options, part of your benefits package, if they give you Google shares every year, maybe you get 100,000 or 150,000 in shares from Google as part of your benefits package. These are the shares you get, GOOG. So that means they are diluting GOOG shares into the market every year as they give out those. Now, they're buying enough shares back right now where they still offset that. But if they were ever to stop that buyback, or if they were to get taxed significantly on buybacks or some of the other things that have been proposed on buybacks, that may impact these buybacks. And you could end up with dilution of the GOOG shares, which they have had in the past before they started doing buybacks. So I didn't like that. So this can impact, I want you to understand the reason I switched. So the dilution of shares into the market can impact it, as well as if there was a bunch of, let's say the company was having trouble. You and I wouldn't know about it right away, but a lot of people who work for Google may. So a lot of those hires up could sell those shares into the market before any news is released, before we got any words, and it could drop the share price significantly before you even knew what was going on. That is part of the reason that I decided to do this switch. GOOGL gives you voting rights, which again, not as important to me because they still have enough, the founders have enough that they can vote however they want. And even if you owned all the GOOGL shares with your vote, you wouldn't be able to make a difference. But these GOOGL shares are not given out as part of benefits packages, right? So if you're a VP or a CEO, you are not getting GOOGL shares, you are getting GOOG shares. They are also buying back the GOOGL shares. So in my mind, the GOOGL shares are more valuable because these could be their beta could be impacted, so they could be more volatile than the GOOGL shares. The other thing he shared with me, which I did not know, is typically GOOGL shares sell at a premium to GOOG. So usually the GOOGL shares are more expensive than the GOOG shares. Currently, they are cheaper than the GOOG shares. So I did sell the GOOG shares and buy GOOGL, right? That is the reason for the swap. So you'll see here now, I'm going to be buying the GOOGL shares. So you see a clear swap, 16 sold, 16 picked up after the 4 I bought. And I only did this because, again, GOOG shares are issued to employees as part of their benefits package so they can impact volatility. The other one is the GOOGL shares do give you voting rights, not as important. And the third reason, the GOOGL shares usually sell at a premium, but right now they're actually lower than the GOOG shares. Let me know what you think about that. What shares do you own? I really don't know that it matters, to be honest with you. They're close enough that you probably find holding either one. I think my buddy actually said he holds both. He just holds more GOOGL shares. He had, I believe, GOOG shares initially, and then whenever they did the split, he ended up with some GOOGL shares. That's how it worked for him anyway. Let me know what you hold and why you hold which one. Now we go back in here on September 9th, and we added an additional $818.95 to the portfolio. This is on top of the GOOG shares. Picked up 10 more shares of Haverty Furniture Companies, ticker HVT. This is out of the consumer discretionary sector. And GOOG and GOOGL are both out of the information technology sector, if I didn't mention that. Picked up these 10 shares at $25.05 per share. 2 more shares to our Owens Corning position, ticker OC, out of the this is out of the industrial sector. Picked up those 2 shares at $156.60. 2 more shares to our Cisco Systems position, ticker CSCO. This is out of the information technology sector. Picked up those 2 shares at $48.63. 4 more shares to our Comcast position, ticker CMCSA, at $39.49. The new shares added $28.96. This $28.96 does include the 4 new shares of GOOGL. And our last new capital allocated to the portfolio was done on September 10th. We added $690.74. With these funds, we picked up 2 more shares of CVS Health Corporation, ticker CVS, out of the healthcare sector at $56.43. We do have that options play on this one, so I'm hoping it stays under 59, so I keep these shares. Although for this one, since I'm still building it out and it's significantly below my cost basis, even if these shares are called away, I will run the wheel on this one and just, take the cash if it gets called away and do a cash secured put. 6 more shares to our Valet position, ticker VAL. This is that VALE. This is that same mining company here at $9.97. We picked up those shares. I think this ran up in the 10.50 range by the end of the week. And our weekly buys. So I am buying these ETFs weekly regardless of what the market's doing. So we picked up our weekly buy here, 1 share of Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF, ticker VTI, and that's what it is. It's every company in the New York Stock Exchange here. Picked up that 1 share at $269.69. And if you remember, excuse me, SCHD, we have been buying 1 share per week at least, but I have kind of put in a new rule that when we get any capital from options, we're going to put that right into SCHD. So we did that again this week. Picked up our 1 share that we typically pick up, as well as 2 additional shares of SCHD. This is the Schwab Strategic Dividend Growth ETF here. We picked up those 3 shares at $82.79. And this is where I'm thinking of taking those Starbucks funds and allocating the funds into SCHD. It has a higher yield than Starbucks did, a little higher dividend growth. So I feel like I would be on the plus side, a little more passive income over the year here if I make that switch. And like I said, SCHD has just run up so much for no real reason, no fundamental reason other than they've changed CEOs. And I need to see what he's going to do to make the business better, not just that they've hired somebody. That is not making the company better, right? You may think it might make the company better, but he needs to implement sound strategy that takes care of the issues that that company's currently had, and it needs to drop back into what I feel is fair value, which is still, under $80, $78 or lower. That's where I'm at with Starbucks. I'm not interested in the mid 90s to high 90s. It's just a little overpriced in my opinion. Now you could be still buying it. That's completely up to you. Maybe you really believe in the CEO. You think he's going to be awesome. Maybe you're just a coffee drinker and you like them to pay for your coffee. That's fine. Makes no difference to me. I'm not in love with any one stock. There are thousands of stocks out there, and I am looking to eventually live off the income. So I want good companies that are paying good growing dividends, which Starbucks is, but I also want to be able to reinvest into those companies and know that they're not overvalued at the time I'm holding them. I'm fine with the 20+% gain that I got on those Starbucks shares. Now, hopefully they drop back down in the 80s and I'll buy them again. But anyways, these new shares added an additional $23.99 in passive income. Total invested with those Google shares, $2,126.21. Total passive income added for the week, $73.21. Back on the right track, headed towards $12,000 a year and $1,000 a month in passive income. We'll see how close we are here in a little bit. Now, a quick run portfolio sector update here. Portfolio weights sitting here in communications at 10.87% of the portfolio right now. Consumer discretionary makes up 8.43%. Consumer staples at 9.47, and this consumer discretionary is going to be a little lower now that it'll drop down a little bit as we pull the once we pull the rest of the Starbucks shares out. I'm still showing Starbucks in the portfolio overall. So whenever you see this at the end, this will be including all the Starbucks shares, even though those shares were called away. All right, next week we'll update whatever we do with those funds. But for now, I'm just going to show it in the portfolio. This will be the last week that it's shown in the portfolio, unless we decide to keep the 11 shares. But the 100 shares right now are called away. I was going to show them against SCHD, but I'm going to leave them exactly where they are. If I show them against SCHD, it would increase my deal. I'm going to leave them as it is, as if they were still in the portfolio for now. So just keep that in mind as you see these final numbers. Consumer staples at 9.47%. Energy makes up 6.04%. Financials, 4.7%. Financials is now the smallest slice of the pie here. I don't know if you noticed that or not. Healthcare still the largest at 14.08. Industrials makes up 6.61. Technology at 7.24. Materials 8.59. Utilities 9.82. REITs and real estate at 9.39. And ETFs just edges out financials here. No longer the smallest position at 4.75% of the portfolio. Over here to the right, you can see the portfolio sector weights. Here's the percentages that match up to the pie, as well as the dollar amount allocated to each sector. Now here it is, and I show this every week, whether I'm up, whether I'm down, whether the market's up, whether the market's down, floating sideways, all the positions in the portfolio. I want you to see a real portfolio built out over time for newer investors, maybe just getting started, for those sitting on the fence still thinking about investing, and for those of you who may be out there who have been investing for a while. Maybe things aren't going quite the way you thought they would. Maybe you're having some troubles in positions. Maybe you're seeing some red in your portfolio, freaking out a little bit. I want you to see a real portfolio built out over time so you can understand the ups and downs of the market. It's normal. Stocks all have a 52-week high and a 52-week low, and there's sometimes, or oftentimes, is a significant difference between that 52-week high and that 52-week low. Nothing's changed about the company. Might be exactly the same company, and they just go up and down for different reasons. Sometimes, for example, we were talking about CEO, VPs, presidents, benefits packages. Sometimes around March, April, May, whenever companies pay out their benefits packages, and those VPs and executives are able to sell off their shares, you'll see a significant drop because a lot of them are selling them and taking that capital and reallocating elsewhere. That's what my wife and I do with her shares that she gets for General Motors. We sell them, we reallocate them into other funds, some into this portfolio, some into other areas. Now, quick run through. Here's the tickers, all the different positions in the portfolio, how many shares I have of each, current price as of the close of business on Friday, market value as of the close of business on Friday, my average cost per share here, my purchase price, how much I have into each position, total return, whether I'm up or down. I'm going to show it. Obviously, the red is positions that are down, so you can see those percent return. Let's go down to Starbucks here. As you can see, they ended the week at $98.55. Now, I set that covered call at $94. So I will only receive $94. I will not receive $98.55, right? The other $4.55 I just lose out on. So technically I'm up about 31.16%. I think when I did the math, the $94 gives us almost a 26, a little over 25% gain. So I am fine locking in a 25% gain on Starbucks. I'll probably sell these other 11.9541 shares here, take the funds, maybe put most of it here, if not the vast majority, into SCHD, run a covered call on SCHD, and then I might run it across, throw in 6, 7, 8 more shares of Google, maybe some more CVS, maybe some more Comcast, and reallocate it, maybe some more Valet, reallocate it across some of the positions that are down right now is what I'm thinking about doing. Total return, percent return, again, up or down. I want to show you every week what's going on in the portfolio. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs. Sometimes there's big ups, sometimes there's big downs. Here's the sectors that they all fall in. We saw the individual, these are the individual position sectors. We saw the sector weights on the previous slide. Whether they're a quarterly, monthly, semi-annual payer here, you'll see it here. I also have them highlighted in yellow. As they raise their dividend for the year, I highlight it. Starbucks was really the only one I was waiting for an increase still for the year. These other ones just haven't. AT&T I bought knowing they aren't raising their dividend right now. Google, that will probably be the first part of next year. Kraft Heinz, I'd love them to start raising their dividends, but they're not. And the other one, Ally, they stopped here a couple years back, so I'd like them to increase that one, but they have not as well. Baba, I showed that they increased their dividend, but really that was a special payment, right? So it's not necessarily, they haven't really started increasing their dividends. This is the first year they're paying, but they did pay out the one early in the year in January. Then they had a special payment in July. I don't know if they'll do that every year, but that's what that was. I highlighted it yellow just because it was the second payment of the year. Current yield as of the close of business on Friday. My yield on cost here, portfolio weighting in this column, estimated annual income here, payout months, dividend growth, where it sits at 15% of a 52-week low. So let's talk about this one real quick. SCHD, for example, or I'm sorry, Starbucks, for example. As you can see here, 15% of a 52-week low is $82.28. I want it below that cost basis. I was not going to be adding to it at $98.55. I guess I could have technically because my cost basis was at $75.14, so I could have added to it till I brought this cost basis up. But again, I'm comfortable locking in a 25% gain. I've only held this position for a couple months now, 2 months, 2.5 months, I think, is whenever I started buying this, maybe 3 months ago. So I'm good with a 25% gain in 3 months. If I can reallocate it over some other funds and make an additional gain, that's the way I'll increase this portfolio a little bit, doing that over time with some of these positions. I probably should have trimmed Owens Corning whenever this was in the 90% range. I probably should have trimmed about 40% of that out of it and then bought back whenever it dropped significantly. But I have been adding to OC as it dropped back in the 40s, 50% range. I may add a little bit here with the reallocation of those funds from Starbucks as well. So these Starbucks actually is kind of a blessing in disguise. With those funds, I can hit some positions I really would like to continue to build out, like Owens Corning, like Procter & Gamble, like Union Pacific, and do it with a significant increase. So I'm actually glad I sold MPW as well, because MPW, the loss on MPW will help offset the gains on Starbucks. All right, so now here we're sitting at 5,728.951 shares. Market value, first time the portfolio has busted over, I believe, it may have hit once before, over 300,000, $7.60. Now, again, this fluctuates over time, but I do like to see that the portfolio is heading in the right direction. Over 300,000, I believe, for the first time. So I'm going to celebrate a little bit today. Might have a beer later in the afternoon, sit in the pool for a little bit. My purchase price, what I have in the portfolio, $267,463.37. This does include dividends. Total return up $32,544.23. This is not what I focus on. Nice to see, but it's not what I focus on. Doesn't mean anything unless I was to sell out all the positions in the portfolio and lock in this gain. Percent return up currently 12.17, but heck, you saw it last week. It was down, I think to 10 or 11%. So it goes up and down. You've seen me down 7, 8, 9, 10% in the negative. So not what I'm focused on. Current yield 3.921%. Again, not what I'm focused on. The yield on cost has gone down a little bit, 4.389%. But this over here, circled in the red, screaming estimated annual income, this is what I'm focused on. Continues to go up as the positions in the portfolio increase their dividends, as I add more capital, as the positions pay out dividends and those dividends get reinvested. Goes up typically week over week, month over month. We have seen some times where it's gone down, where I've sold out of a position, or in MPW's case, where it decreased the dividend cost, cut the dividend. So it does happen. We're trying not to let that happen and to continue to increase this, looking to try to get to 12,000. That's our next stop here, 12,000 in estimated annual income, $1,000 a month. But currently sits at $11,762.63. Very nice to see that back on the right track since we cut that MPW position. And again, if we reallocate those funds from Starbucks, if we were to put them, let's see, so their dividend yield is 3.034% right here, whereas current 2.3%, whereas SCHD would be current 3.4% with a 3.593%. So I would be happy reallocating most of those into SCHD with a much higher current yield than Starbucks has right now. That would increase our estimated annual income, probably put us in the 11,800 range, if not a little higher. Again, I'll probably play with this screener here, play with how I'm going to reallocate those funds before I actually do it, and see if I can get this very close, if not over the $12,000 mark, which with the S-Bucks funds. We'll see. You will see what's going on next week. So just one more reason to click that notification bell and make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you can tune back in next week and see what I do with those Starbucks funds. Well, that is it for this one. Let me know what's going on in your portfolio. What are you doing? What are you buying? What are you selling? What are you looking to buy if the market pulls back again? Looks like it's starting to rebound, a very fast rebound. It might have pulled back for about a week this time, and now it's right back on the march again. So, not much of an opportunity to jump into some of these positions that pulled back, but that's the nature of the market. Well, as always, appreciate you stopping by. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to show me some love. Hit that thumbs up, ring the notification bell. Most importantly, subscribe to the channel. Join us on this journey to financial freedom. Join the vested interest community. And drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think. What do you think of the switch from GOOG to GOOGL? Which one do you own if you own one of them? I do personally read and respond to the comments. I'm always interested to read your questions, opinions, or suggestions for future topics. And this is Shane signing off, wishing peace and prosperity to you and yours. And remember, financial security comes to those who take a vested interest. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you have a great week. Drop your comments in the comment section down below. Make sure you click that notification bell. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we will see you in the next one. I'm not a financial advisor. You can read through the rest of this, and I'm definitely not your financial advisor. Make sure you are doing your own research before you buy any stocks, and you can lose money in the stock market.